The Senior Bowl is in the books. The national team wins 27-10. Here are 10 players that stood out from this past week. Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I am really excited to talk about the Senior Bowl, and not just the game. I want to talk about the practices during the week and everything that kind of went on, and 10 players that stood out to me. Now, this is going to be geared more towards the New York Jets, so if you're looking for a running back or a cornerback, just because the Jets are kind of loaded at those positions, I did not go that direction. I tried to keep it within the realm of Jets' potential draft picks here. But some really good prospects that we're going to go over and highlight some things that happened throughout the week. So first and foremost, I want to start with the biggest fish in the pond, at least according to the New York Jets, and probably a lot of teams that are looking for offensive line help, and that is center John Michael Schmitz. This guy dominated the entire week at the Pro Bowl. He's 23 years old. Came in at 6'3", 306 pounds. He has about a second-round grade on him. He has 2,495 snaps at center. He gave up 2 sacks in 5 seasons, is a true anchor in both run and pass reps, and he's quick to get to the second level on screens. This guy's pretty fast. Now, he's not as agile as Linderbaum was last year, but Linderbaum was like 280, so you're talking about a 25-pound heavier guy in Schmitz, and I really like what he could provide in a situation where the Jets are looking to possibly move on from Connor McGovern. This is the best one of the bunch. This is the guy that has dominated everyone. This is like the biggest lock as far as centers go in this particular draft. Does he sneak into the first round? I don't know if we necessarily see that. According to some of the other sites that I'm looking at here, it looks like only one has him in the top 32. The majority of people have him between, I guess, that 30 to 50 overall rank, which is kind of cool. Kind of like this. You can see all the different dates that they've graded him based on the different websites and whatnot. So interesting. Center John Michael Schmitz. I could really get down with this guy. I think in the second round might be a little rich for where I was hoping to spend on a center. I think I like the idea of maybe bringing back Connor McGovern and like having a developmental guy that you take a little bit later on. I don't know if you want to task him entirely with starting reps right off the bat, but I mean, if you're going in the second round, you are. That is that is the move that you're going to wind up making. So Schmitz, he's got my mark of approval here. The next one I want to talk about is Jarrett Patterson. He's the interior offensive lineman from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He was like the top center last year before the season, and then wound up going back to Notre Dame and didn't come out. Linderbaum was the top one, along with the guy from Boston College that I'm blanking on right now. But he's 23 and a half years old, 6'4", 304 pounds. He spent the first bunch of years at center. I think it was 3 years at center for Patterson, and then moved over to guard this past year. I guess he wanted to put a little more film on tape at that position. And I mean, he does mention that he likes playing the center position. He just feels more natural at it. He's got more reps at it, but he actually did relatively well. 23 and a half years old, 6'4", 304 pounds. I have a 3rd to 4th round grade on him. I mean, I guess we'll find out a little bit more from the combine. He really fell a lot going from where he could have been last year to now. So this is a center I want to keep an eye on, just because of the positional flexibility that he could provide as maybe a backup to Tomlinson, and then taking over for McGovern in a year or whatever. I really like this. He didn't have a great first day of the Senior Bowl. The second day, he really stood out strong. He played as a guard the first day, center the second day. Had some success versus Keanu Benton, another player that's going to eventually pop up on this list. And he was much more confident in day 2, obviously being at the center position there. As far as where places kind of rank him and where they think he's going, you can kind of see it somewhere in that, like, I guess 3rd to 4th round, right? 80s-ish down to like 120 is where a nice chunk of people are kind of looking at him. I think he's probably going to wind up in that 4th round. If I had to take a guess, just a pure speculation. There's actually a few centers that I really like in this draft. Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas is another good one. The kid from Michigan, who's I'm blanking on his name, but he was actually at the Senior Bowl this year. Another possible name you can kind of take a look at here. I want to take a look at an offensive tackle. Obviously, we have Mekhi Becton on the right-hand side. You're looking at Dwayne Brown right now on the left-hand side. I don't think we bring back George Fant. And then you're hoping to get either one in free agency, maybe one at number 13. But there's a few players. None of the top end guys are in this Senior Bowl, but some of the guys that might be available in the second round and beyond. Some things we could possibly look at. This dude is an absolute monster. Dawand Jones, 6'8", 375 pounds. He's 21 and a half years old. This guy's an absolute monster. If it wasn't for Paris Johnson on the left-hand side, this would be the offensive lineman from Ohio State that everyone would be talking about. And he is just physically dominant. He's bigger than everyone else. This is bigger than Mekhi Becton. The guy's an inch taller than Mekhi Becton. And, I mean, he's roughly about the same weight, but he, like, plays basketball. That's how he keeps his weight down. Maybe he needs a nutritionist or whatever, but, like, dude, could you imagine having this guy and Becton on the offensive line? Or, like, imagine some situation where you have to move one of them inside and they're both next to each other. Oh, talk about monsters. Now, I have a second-round grade on him. 2-year starter at Ohio State. He has surrendered 11 quarterback hurries, 3 quarterback hits, and 6 sacks in his time as a starter. Massive size. Like I said, he excels at the run game. He's just going to use his leverage to just bully people. He wound up leaving the Senior Bowl early due to an undisclosed injury. So I'm curious to see what that injury winds up being, if they think it's going to hinder his performance maybe at the Combine, maybe at Pro Days when we see him next. It kind of depends how severe that injury may or may not have been. Does it cause him to slip a little bit? This is a guy I would definitely consider bringing in. Now, I guess maybe my concern, or other people's concern, would also be, hey, he's still 6'8", 375 pounds. We have one of those on our roster already. I don't know if we need to do another one and wind up having some more injury concerns, because at that frame and weight, you start dealing with a few more issues. So I understand if people don't want to go this route. Second, third round, I mean, are you rolling this is probably a situation where you might look at him if you're like really planning on putting Mekhi Becton at left tackle and you don't really know what you're doing at right tackle just yet. And then maybe Brown is your backup left tackle, and then Mitchell would be your backup left tackle. It's an interesting thought process. I mean, if you want to bully people around, I'm all about it. Now, as far as where people rank him, he seems pretty consistently like in the second round. Like, you're not going to get this guy too much later, I don't think, just because of his sheer size. I think people are going to be talking about him. This is similar to like the Daniel Falele guy from Minnesota last year. Just an absolute freak of a specimen. Sticking with the offensive line, I want to look at one more player here, and this is offensive guard / tackle O'Cyrus Torrence from Florida. He's 23 years old, 6'5", 337 pounds. I have a first or second round grade on him. I think he tends to go somewhere in like the 18th pick through, beginning of the second round or so. So in a situation maybe where you were to drop down from the 13th pick, maybe you're kind of looking at this guard tackle hybrid here. 3,065 snaps at right guard, no sacks given up in his career. He blocked for Anthony Richardson. I put that note on there just because Anthony Richardson is known for his running and his mobility, so you have to hold your blocks a little bit longer. And there is a certain level of skill that takes an offensive lineman to not matriculate downfield or to hold on to his block without actually holding. And use the leverage to shield the quarterback as best he can. And this guy, was pretty good at it. Not giving up any sacks while having that style of play behind you is pretty impressive here. He's a mean streak as a run blocker. Big, heavy dude. He did take reps at tackle in the Senior Bowl. So maybe there's a situation where the Jets see all 3 tackles go in front of them, and then this guy's sitting there and you're like, 13's a little high. Let's trade down a little bit. We'll pick up an extra second or third round pick, and then we'll take him right there, and he could be the replacement for Tomlinson for the long term, while also having the flexibility like AVT to play tackle on the outside. Kind of an interesting player here. Now, as far as where people think he's going to go, it seems like he's almost a lock for the first round. Like, you're talking like top end second round to like, middle to end first round. And I think that's spot on where he could go. I would bet that little CBS marker right there, that looks like it's sitting right at 13. if I'm looking closely. Clearly, the Jets need offensive line help. I think we need probably 2 offensive linemen across the board, whether it be tackle, center, or maybe a guard that can play center at the same time. Not at the same time, obviously. But if Tomlinson continues to play poorly and you already have your center, then that person can play guard. O'Cyrus Torrence, like him. Not a problem with him at all. Keanu Benton, we're flipping to the defensive side of the ball. This is the defensive tackle from Wisconsin, 21 years old, 6'3", 312 pounds. Now, I have a 4th-round grade on him, is kind of where I've been seeing him go in a lot of mock drafts. 1,317 snaps at defensive tackle, career pressures over the last, I guess it was 4 seasons, right? So he had 14 pressures, 5 pressures, and then the last 2 years, 21 and 28 pressures. And then in stops, his first 2 years, 8, 6, and then it jumps up to 16, 27. So you can see a nice little ramp up from beginning of career to now, and I think that's a really nice thing to see. Stout against the run. So obviously you have Quinnen Williams. You're trying to bring him back on a long-term contract. You're not passing, but you may not bring back Sheldon Rankins. I could see a situation, or maybe it's a 1-year deal and you want to groom someone behind him. This is the guy, Benton, who can rush the passer, can create some chaos in the backfield, but he's very stout against the run. So if you're looking to fill that kind of role that you think you may lose with someone like a Sheldon Rankins, this is a player I would definitely take a look at here. Now, as far as where people are ranking him, it looks like it's in that 2nd, 3rd round. Now, having a really good Senior Bowl like this guy had, that's going to start pushing him up. So he's probably closer to, middle of day 2 as opposed to maybe beginning of day 3 or end of day 2. Kind of interesting to see. I don't know how I feel on defensive tackle. There's a part of me that kind of wants to just retain our own, bring back Sheldon Rankins, try to find someone in undrafted free agency, look for someone that's like just a hog, can just eat up a ton of blocks, and like that's what I'm looking for. I don't necessarily want to use a draft pick on a defensive tackle, but I can understand the thought process if we decide to go that route, given the contract that is looming for Quinnen and also the free agent status that is Sheldon Rankins. I do think you could also move John Franklin Myers inside in some situations as well. So maybe it's a need for sure. 4th round is probably where I'd start maybe looking defensive tackle. On the defensive line, now this one isn't so much a need right now, but depending on where he goes, it's someone that you might want to look at, and that's Keon White, edge out of Georgia Tech. This dude is a monster. They describe him as a get-off-the-bus guy. 24 years old, 6'5", 280 pounds. This guy hit 21 miles an hour at damn near 300 pounds. This is an athletic freak. I don't care what position he plays. If you could get this dude in the 4th or 5th round and you're just like, oh, I'm not sure who we're going to get the dude that's like, he could bunk with Michael Clemens. The two guys can have bunk beds together. They'll be like stepbrothers. It'll be awesome. They'll be playing with power tools. It'll be incredible. 32-inch vertical. 38 reps at 225. The guy is a physical specimen. 29 hurries this past year. 1 year as a starter. 29 hurries, 4 quarterback hits, 7 sacks. Talk about upside on a player. If you're going to tag Huff and you're not sure, like, hey, is he going to command some crazy kind of contract? And this guy's just sort of sitting there later on at some point. Dude, take the best players available. And if you think you can find a way to use him on your defensive line wherever he is, cool. I'm not talking like use a high pick on him, but like 4th round and beyond, when you start taking swings at players, this is one that I think is a really interesting swing. As far as where places think he's going to go, you're looking, a lot of places are kind of thinking that like 3rd round, 3rd, 4th round, right? Because 90 would be that 3rd round, end of the 3rd round. So 3rd, 4th round, I guess. Some places had him really high. NFL.com, how do they have him so high up? Top 10? Everywhere's all over the place. I guess Draft Buzz has him a lot lower. But I don't know. It's weird looking at ranks this time of year because so many people have so many different ranks, and not everyone has seen all the tape yet, and you haven't seen the combine, you haven't seen pro days, and there's so much that like it's weird that like how much stock we do take into account for all that stuff. But I'll keep an eye on this guy moving forward a little bit, even though edge is not necessarily a position I do want to go. I want to look at safety. Safety is going to be an issue for the New York Jets. You have LaMarcus Joyner, Probably not coming back. You have Whitehead under contract. You could wind up cutting him if you want to save $7.25 million. What do you do at safety? Well, one of the biggest physical specimens at the Senior Bowl this past week was J.L. Skinner out of Boise State. This guy is 22 years old, 6'4", 211 pounds. If 6'4" sounds familiar, Kyle Hamilton had damn near the same size profile last year. And this guy, when you're looking at him, you're saying, we're going to play him the same way they played Kyle Hamilton down in Baltimore. We want to have this guy line up in the slot, almost be like a linebacker that can take on running backs, can take on tight ends, but also has that speed and wingspan to cover, in zone or man coverage. The guy's a bully. I have a 3rd-round grade on him, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Freakish size for a safety. Like I said, 6'4", just a monster. 58 run stops the last 2 years. So the guy is not afraid to hit. I guess when you're that size, there's not too many players that are going to be bigger than you. Quarterback rating when targeted got better each year. So 106.8 his first year, 105.6 drops to a 91.8, and this year had a 37.8. So really, really nice in coverage here. I like this move a lot. I would have no problem moving on from Whitehead and plugging in J.L. Skinner. Now, you do have to have a concern about having this particular type of player in a leadership role, like trying to run the offense. So I don't know if you want to have the entire weight of that lining up of the secondary kind of on him. That's sort of why you still want to hold on to a Whitehead or someone that knows the defense, maybe like a Jimmy Ward. Maybe Jimmy Ward comes over and runs the defense for us. We shall see. Now, as far as where places are ranking him, you can kind of see the curve there. What do we got? We got DraftBuzz, CBS, and DraftNet, and Draft Tech all have him sitting somewhere around the 80 range. So it looks like that's probably about the 3rd round, which is, I guess, where I had my guy. So I like this. I think from a size profile, it's exciting. Again, kind of depends who's on the board and how the rest of these things shake out. The other safety that I want to talk about, one that really made a really nice name for himself, is Sidney Brown out of Illinois. I really enjoyed watching some of his hits and coverage. His coverage was really, really phenomenal. At 22 years old, he's 5'10", 213 pounds. So he's definitely on the shorter side, but he's a tight muscle at 213 at that height. They have a 6th-round grade on him, is what I've kind of been looking at, which seems a little surprising given the coverage that I was witnessing this past week. He has 3,168 reps at safety. His quarterback ratings the last 3 years going against him, 104.7, 96.3, 47.8, so got better each of those years, and like I said, was impressive during the Senior Bowl week. He had 56 tackles, 25 stops, and 6 interceptions. I don't know why this guy's a 6th-round grade. I would roll the dice on this. Later rounds, Jets need some help. Bring in a safety that's shown out against some top-end talent. Now, as far as where places have him, okay, well, clearly that's wrong. They have a lot of places have him. I guess it's looking between 100 and 150. So where would that be? 100 and 150. Probably peg you somewhere for like the 4th, 5th round. But obviously Walter Football and PFF have really high grades on him. So they're talking like 2nd round for Sidney Brown. I don't know. Be interesting to see where this guy winds up going. So 6th round's definitely not going to be where it winds up going if he played that well at the Senior Bowl and these other little draft things are kind of right. All right, so I might have to amend my grade on Sidney Brown. We're probably looking. Let's call it 4th round for right now instead of 6th round. Next, I want to move to the linebackers. Linebackers going to be a big issue for the New York Jets. C.J. Mosley has a monster cap hit of like $21.5 million this year. Quincy Williams and Quan Alexander are both not under contract. So what do the Jets do? I would like to see us restructure C.J. Mosley, create a lower cap hit while creating some cap space, some flexibility. Maybe that allows us to re-sign Quincy and Quan. I don't really want to rely on young rookies early and would hopefully allow some of our veterans to take the reins. But Diane Henley, I don't know if I pronounced that right, linebacker out of Washington, was at Nevada, wound up transferring to Washington State. 23 years old, 6'1", 230 pounds, 4th-round grade, I guess is what I had on him. He spent 4 years at Nevada, did his 5th year, senior year at Washington. He had 74 tackles, 40 stops, 1 pass breakup, 1 interception, and 5 sacks. He's known for his coverage. is the gist that I kind of got from this guy. And Quan Alexander would be the player that would most likely be replaced with this type of selection, which obviously is pretty good. Quan's getting up there in age. I think Quan's like 31, 32 years old. So maybe getting someone in here a little bit younger could be just what the doctor ordered here. As far as where other places rank him, 50 to, what would you say that draft buzz is? 125, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. Pro Football Focus really high on him. Again, second round grade for Henley here. So I had him in the 4th round. You're probably looking at him, I don't know. I think if I were going linebacker early in the draft, I'd be looking more for a Mike, someone that could definitely replace CJ Mosley. I don't think I want to pull the trigger on like the Quincy or Quan level linebacker before the 4th round. So for me, I think 4th round is where I'd be looking at potentially getting him. And then finally, the other linebacker I want to talk about is one that I had in my mock offseason. I've had him in a few mock drafts. I know Matt is pretty high on him as well. But that is DeMarvion Overshown, a linebacker out of Texas, 22 and a half years old, 6'2", 220 pounds. This guy is a converted safety turned linebacker. He can play all 3 levels of the field. He's good in coverage. He can hit the piss out of you in the running game. So I definitely like that. He's really fast, has good bend, great arms, great long arms for coverage. He has the speed to recover against tight ends and running backs. And again, this would be like a Quan Alexander type replacement. And I think the way I'm sort of looking at the linebacker position in my head is I do want CJ Mosley here. I want him restructured. I want him to be the Mike, so I don't have to be overly concerned about that. Quincy, younger, thumper, want to try and retain him if I can. Quan being the older one. Obviously, the receiving options out of the backfield, both with running back, not necessarily tight end, but around the line of scrimmage. I do think Overshown and Henley both provide those coverage opportunities that Quan provided with the ability to still stop the run, set the edge on that side. So I really like this a lot. Overshown, as far as ranks go, they have him ranked I guess Draft Buzz likes him, 40s. Damn. This is why rankings are all over the place. One site has him like at 40, and then you'll look at CBS. CBS has him at like 160. So somewhere in the middle, we'll call it 100. Third or 4th round grade on DeMarvion Overshown. I think a lot of people are going to like him based on the speed that you see on tape. He's a fun watch. Definitely recommend giving him a look. So guys, those were my 10 players that I enjoyed watching over Senior Bowl week. I think the Jets should at least have a pulse on some of these players, and it's not going to be quite as easy as it was last year. We had our coaching staff there. You were able to kind of maybe get an in with some of the undrafted free agent prospects that might shake out after the draft. This year, those little in-person interviews and draft picks, gonna be very, very important. So guys, let me know your thoughts of this list down below in the comment section. Who were your top Senior Bowl prospects that you think I should take a look at? I want to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.